members of every emergency service inside that building and just outside the perimeter of the building, still evacuating civilians. Told my wife that, quickly hung up the phone. I said, tell the kids I love them, give them a kiss, I love you, and I don't know if I'm coming back. And never in my life thought that way. Went to loads of fires. You can talk to any of the FDNY guys here. Back when we were on the job, it was busy. We did a ton of fire activity and lots of other emergencies. I never got on the rig and said, oh my God, I'm going to die when I get to this fire. I got on the rig and we used to yell at the chauffeur, go faster, because we didn't want to get beat in. We wanted to be the first unit there. This morning, I honestly felt like we weren't coming back. Got there, zero visibility, and couldn't make head or tails of anything. It was like standing in a blizzard at midnight up in the country where I lived. So it was totally silent, but it was like we were in a burning building out in the street because you couldn't see anything. We were actually literally almost bumping into burning emergency vehicles because you couldn't see them until you got close. There was no radio traffic on our fireground radio. There were hundreds of radio-equipped firefighters on that scene. My captain got on the radio. He called Rescue 3 a couple of times. There was no answer. And I don't know who it was, somebody in our crowd, because I couldn't see anybody, but somebody in our group told the whole group, he said, everybody is dead. Well, at that point, that was 2 5-alarm assignments. 1 5-alarm assignment from the FDNY is a massive turnout of personnel and equipment. It's hundreds of firefighters and a load of fire apparatus and special units and whatever. This was 2 5th alarms, and there's nobody on the radio. So it was very believable when that firefighter said everybody's dead. Eventually, we did hear some traffic, and all the traffic we were hearing initially was firefighters who were alive and they were trapped, mostly guys that were trapped out in the street under apparatus. And they were telling us exactly where they were. They knew, you know, like one firefighter was a pump operator on an engine company, told us what engine he was, told us exactly where he was. You know, I'm hooked up to a hydrant at the corner of West Street and wherever it was. And we just told him, we're coming for you, brother, don't worry, we're going to come for you. And we were saying that, we were going to try to get there for him, but we were really saying that to try to encourage him to hang on, because we could hear he was badly hurt. You could hear it in his voice. And we had no idea where that location was. You couldn't see street signs. If they were there, they were totally covered with dust, but nothing looked like it had looked like before the first plane hit. You know, it didn't look anything like the World Trade Center. It looked like we were in some city in World War II. You know, it was a 16-acre pile of debris. So, you know, we tried to come up with a quick plan of action. Certainly our goal initially was to try to locate live victims. We eventually were notified by a ladder company captain from Ladder 6 that his entire company was in the B stairwell in the North Tower, and that they had a civilian that they had been carrying down. She was with them, and a Port Authority police officer was with them. They were trapped, they were injured, but they were stable. But they also said there's a couple of firefighters that we're communicating with verbally, not on the radio, and we can't get to them. There's no way to get through the debris we're in right now, but we know where they are, and they're in bad shape. And unfortunately, during that span of time while these guys were still trapped, slowly the lives of those 2 firefighters ebbed away, and they spoke less, and then they spoke weaker and weaker, and then they never heard from them again. So bad enough these poor people are trapped, but they're aware that there's people that need help right near them and they can't get them, and then they have to witness their death. This went on in all different shapes and forms. Everyone's got a story that was there, and one is more heartbreaking than another. My unit never found Ladder Company 6. Other firefighters found them hours later, and they were able to get ladders and ropes, and this was far into the debris field, and they were on, like, I don't know, I think maybe the 6th floor in this stairway, and it's the only part of the stairway that didn't get crushed. It's a miracle, really. But these firefighters from Engine 53 and Ladder 43 from Harlem finally found them, and they were able to get them out. We did participate in a couple of rescues that day. My personal involvement was just being blessed to put my hand on a Stokes basket 2 different times that day where we were passing live civilians out of the rubble. And that was the best feeling that we could have had for the whole day, because these 2 people, we actually got to say some words of encouragement to them as we passed them to the next cop or the next firefighter in the line. And everyone did it because it was just, wow, somebody's alive. We walked at some points. We were walking on the exterior skeleton of the towers that laid out across West Street, and very sadly, you would look down, and it was quite a distance down, but you would look down and you would see a crushed fire department Suburban or a crushed ladder truck or pumper, and firefighters you could see were underneath them where they dove under these rigs when the towers started coming down. And we would send 1 or 2 firefighters down to check to see if there was any viable patients, and I found none. We didn't find any, and initially we had to leave them because we were looking for live victims. As I said earlier, to put this into the small time frame I have today is impossible. I hope that everybody feels the gravity of what we were exposed to. Again, it was a job I loved, and on that day, I never experienced a state of shock like I ended up in. I worked just by my training and my brain telling me, you got to do this, you got to help these people, you got to stay with the brothers and do what we're doing. But I don't even remember half of what went on. There's still guys I work with that'll say something, they'll remind me, and all of a sudden it'll click. It was more than anybody really could muster. The toughest guys I ever worked with on my job that had 35 years on a job and worked through riots and everything else. Everybody had the blank stare that day. Every cop had the blank stare. Every EMS person had the blank stare. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the trades workers in New York City, iron workers, welders, unbelievable. I mean, they got right in with us. We tell them, hey, we got a recovery right here. He's under a box beam. They'd get whatever equipment they needed, start burning it, and show tremendous respect to every victim we would find. You know, they truly joined our ranks. You know, and they deserve a lot of credit too. A lot of them are sick and dying. And I think I'm going to leave off with that because I'm just picking and choosing little pieces of my experience that day. One thing is, 11:30 at night, I realized I hadn't spoken to my wife since right before we got there. North Tower was still up, and now it was down, and she never heard from me, and I told her I was going to probably never come home. I called her 11:30 at night. She saw the caller ID on the phone, saw that it was my cell phone, and her immediate thought was, oh, somebody found Garrett's phone in the file. She really already, my 2 kids, one was in high school, one was in the 8th grade. They all thought I was dead for the whole day. I actually had a member of my company come up to me at that point, right before I called my wife, and he had that blank stare, and he grabbed me and he got me in a bear hug, and he said, thank God. And I said, what? Because there wasn't a lot of things to thank God for that day, except that long later I realized that it was okay for me to survive, because the survivor guilt thing was another issue. But I said, what, Chris? He said, you're on the missing list. And that's what keyed me in. Oh, no, I got to call my wife. If I'm on the missing list, she's probably getting phone calls from everybody's wife and, you know, kind of tiptoeing around that. And I was on the missing list because I got relieved a little bit early in the firehouse I'd worked in the night before. So my name was still in Rescue 4's apparatus on the dashboard that I was the forcible entry man on Rescue 4. And no one had seen me, and they put me up there. So thankfully I was able, my wife was one of the lucky ones. Not lucky that she went through hell all day, but lucky that at the end of the day, she was able to tell my 2 kids, hey, Dad's alive. That was huge. I mean, that really, thank you. our wives and our kids, and again, when I say our, I'm not just talking about firefighters. I see some uniformed police sitting here and sporting, I think, a PAPD maybe, right there. And we all had the same experiences. Our families went through hell. My wife, before 9/11, I don't know how she put up with me, but after 9/11, I was a disaster. I had PTSD. I didn't even know it. It took me years to realize, and then to finally reach out and get help. Fast forward now, I encourage other first responders to get help with PTSD. I try to counsel them myself with all that I've learned. There's no shame in that. Any of you that are out there that things aren't going well for you, there's no shame in that. There's shame if you don't get the help, because it changed my life. And by the way, before 9/11, I was, one of all my brothers and sisters out there. We're tough guys, I go to fires, I, force doors and crawl into burning buildings, and yeah, we were tough guys through that. Nobody was a tough guy after 9/11. You might have thought you were, but no way. It was more than you can muster. I'll leave you with this. As I said earlier, always we refer to the FDNY as the greatest job on earth. The day after 9/11, we went back to the site, and people were already making up like oak tag signs with magic marker and putting them under the windshield wipers of whatever fire apparatus they could find that said, still the greatest job on the face of the earth. And the attitude of the firefighters then was, it was in the face of the terrorists. You killed a bunch of our guys, but we're still here, and we're still going to do what we do. And every one of us right now, if something like that happened again, wouldn't even think twice. We all have terrible health issues that we're going through. We would do that all again in a second, because that's what first responders do. That's what the military does, and it's our country. And we're all patriotic, and we love our country. We love what we did that day, and the FDNY is still the greatest job on the face of the earth. I wish I could still be there doing it. God bless you all today. I am so excited to see this many patriotic Americans in one place. The only other thing I want to say, and I swear it's the last thing, I was set up this morning. I was told to only speak like 7 minutes, and I know I'm beyond that. And I wasn't told that I was going to follow our great governor and Lee Greenwood. What's with that? Thank you all so much. You guys rock.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the heroes of that day, one of the survivors, and one that we are all grateful for. Garrett Lindrum, thank you for coming. Wish you the best. God bless you. Yes, sir. For all of those we honor today who did not survive, I'm going to ask you to stand now for taps.
All uniform personnel, attend, shoot, reset, hook.
we will raise and lower the flag to half-staff in memoriam to honor those souls that we lost on that fateful day that we are all part of. Guards and retired District Fire Chief Tom Fritz will now play Amazing Grace.
Order! Ho!
The perpetual flame will be lighted now by retired Palm Harbor firefighter Bill Swingle and Louis Kikus, retired FDNY. Wreaths will be placed by the Palm Harbor Fire Department members Steve Gorby and Craig Rogers, Rescue and Recovery. Garrett Lindgren, retired FDNY, Rich Michio, retired FDNY, and Hitch and Bobby Anderson, retired FDNY, Ann Coster, a 9/11 survivor, and Diana Kopek, a 9/11 essential worker. The bell will be tolled by Scott Sanford, Chief of the Palm Harbor Fire Department and Rescue. remain standing for our benediction that will be offered by Pastor Milton Smith, chaplain of the Palm Harbor Fire Rescue. First, the bell will be tolled to commemorate this day.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. As you can see by today, the fire department is rich and steeped in tradition, and that is what you're witnessing here today. One of those traditions is the tolling of the bell. The bell has a significance in the fire service because it's how we used to communicate. They would use the bell to notify that there was a problem, if somebody needed help. They would toll the bell to signify the beginning of a shift, and they would also toll the bell at the end of the day to let everybody know that everybody made it home safe. The tradition that we're going to honor right now is the tolling of the bells in what's called the 4 5s. The 4 5s has its tradition in the fire department of New York City, and it is respect that is given to firefighters when they pay the ultimate sacrifice. So with that, Luca Patron from Palm Harbor Fire Rescue is now going to present the 4 5s in honor of everybody that lost their lives associated with 9/11.
All uniformed personnel,